Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? It's hair, yep. Getting a little fluffy up top again. Time to go get a haircut. How y'all doing tonight? Man, this is going to be a good evening. We are going to be doing lots and lots of sphere cutting. Um, we'll be going over core drill stuff. We'll talk a little bit about doing it by hand. We'll cover some of the sphere machines. So, Jordan's not here tonight. Jordan has the night off. I know, shocking. It's crazy kind of having us rotate through. What do you guys think about the having Cody, Jordan, and I rotate through? Well, I'm sure we'll get more of that. Cody's back there still cutting rock. He's having a horrible day. Um, just cutting rock up, getting ready for the live event. So he's extra miserable. Miserable. I told him he could listen while we do the cutting and keep cutting up rock. Oh, that's very exciting, Brad. I do love that copper Chrysocolla. Man, now I wish I would have brought down a piece of that to make us for out of tonight. Awesome. Well, should we get started? And then team, you guys all have to stay on the chat tonight because I won't be able to watch it and Cody's getting rock cut up. But let's head on over.
No problem, Zeke.
What's that?
I said, no problem, Zeke. I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Ahmed. Let's see where we leave the camera. Hey, Cody, I'm going to steal the 16. We'll talk a little bit about doing sphere preforms. Oh, I just realized Cody was also muted on the camera there. So hopefully you'll be able to hear him now. But we'll start with going over the old school way. I really never make spheres this way anymore. But of course we got to talk about it because most people aren't going to be running a core drill in their shop. Most people are going to be either doing it by hand or like on a trim saw or cutting in a slab saw to do this. So I'll show you guys two sphere preforms. So this is one that was done with a core drill where we made 5 cuts to get this shape. And you can see it's pretty round already. This is 26 cuts in a slab saw. And then both of these need to be taken over to like the cab machine or with a wet grinder and grind the corners off to make a sphere. But we'll start by talking about doing a sphere preform like this because this is how most people are going to do it is cutting something like this in a slab saw and then using a jig to cut your corners off. So let me grab a hunk of rock and we'll start cutting our preform in the saw. And then we can go over and talk about the core drill some because it'll take, I mean, we'll have a sphere done before we finish this preform, but I want you guys to get started on it so you can see the process. Well, let's see, what should we make a sphere out of? You gotta wander around and look. I didn't think about. Oh yeah, this Tortella does look good in the sphere preform or in that sphere. Oh, here we go. This will be a fun one because it's already half blocky. And sphere cutters love blocky rock. Chunk of the King Cobra. Now, a lot of people will take and find something round and draw on there to get the right size, which is very helpful. We're just gonna eyeball it, and I'll grab a tape measure when we go to do our other cuts. In a perfect world, if I was doing this, I would actually clamp the rock so I could do two cuts this way and get a cube out of it, and two cuts the other way. Although most people aren't cutting a sphere that small to a piece of rock that size, just because they don't have that option. You know, if you got a chunk of rock like this, they want to be able to do as big of a sphere as possible. So this one we'll take and we'll do it the traditional way where we cut a face off, we turn it, cut a face off, turn it. But first cut's always the easiest because really all you're doing is just squaring up your first edge, saving as much material as you need to get a decent ball out of it. All right. We'll go ahead and get that started. You can also do a sphere preform on a trim saw, which is really fun. You know, sometimes we've done a cut and chat on it where we'll take and make a sphere preform where we cut it out on a trim saw and then finish it on the cab machine if you don't got a sphere set up. All right, now here you can see what we're doing with the core drill, and we'll core something tonight. We'll take our stone and cast it in plaster like this. This is number one casting plaster. And that allows us to basically, this is our vise. This plaster is our vise for this rock. It holds it from rocking. It makes it so we can get exactly where we want to drill. Um, and it just helps keep it stable because you're not putting it in a vise when you do the core drill. You can see it's lined up, so when it's sitting like that, it'll be almost perfectly flat, which makes it easier. You can core on a little bit of an angle, but it's definitely easier if it's flat. One other little trick I'll show you guys while I'm picking these up is when I pick them up, I roll them on the table like that because the plaster tends to be very sharp along the edges when you first take it off. But let's plaster something up because this is a step that a lot of people are very curious about. Um, and I have to say, I was skeptical in the beginning when I got bought my core drill of plaster because I was like, gosh, that seems like so much work. But it really is so much better than all the other ways that I see people try. This is one I'm really excited to drill tonight, do our neolite. This is probably the one we'll drill tonight because I don't think I've cut the jig for this one yet. And I want to show you guys how to cut the jig for the core drill. This is another King Cobra that if it or I'm sorry, a piece of is it King Cobra or is that fruitcake? Oh, it's fruitcake. There's another fruitcake that I'm really excited about. I think this is gonna be the one that I get for my collection. But I haven't yeah, I gotta core it and see how much I love it first. That piece does look pretty freaking good though. I'll roll this around. This one will come drill right in there. Which this piece would be really hard to drill without the plaster because of the way it sits. And with the plaster, it'd be really easy to get the bit right on that spot. That'd be a fun one to drill. How many sphere cutters do we got on tonight? Clean up a little plaster mess here. Or maybe I should ask how many people on want to become a sphere cutter tonight. Tay's waving her arms at me. She was trying to get the phone unlocked, but I think she put in the same password that I used. It just didn't work for her. But we got to give the plaster time to dry. So let's plaster up a rock and get it ready to drill. I'll show you guys that process. Fun as always. Cody, you having fun over there?
I'm having an absolute blast. I'm living the dream.
Oh, good. He looks like it too. All right. Get us a fresh square of paper there. Well, let's see what fun
Looking for
stuff I
some,
got.
I say, looking for something to complain about out here. Maybe the weather's too perfect.
Don't worry. Actually, this was like the best time to get Cody really hooked. When the weather's nice, it's all pretty and green. I think we're gonna plaster up this Turkish stick agate. This is one we showed on the live event the other night when we were doing tote and nobody grabbed it. And I was just like, gosh dang, that's a killer piece. That big star in there. This is one where we really want the bit skating the outsides right there. So we'll look and see. I like to take the bit and just hold it up to the piece to see which size is going to fit. Is one of the, is yours? Oh, that's not good. But I like to take and hold the bit up to it and see, like, all right, has that got room? And John would probably go up a bit size, although I think that's about perfect right there. Let me grab a tape measure and we'll mark what size bit that is on the stone. I do like to, if you're doing a big batch of them, especially we're doing mixed sizes with coring, it's important to mark them because once they're in the plaster, it's a lot harder to tell what size bit you intended on using. Let's see. This is where I'm like, where's Jordan? I need a Sharpie. All right, got the handy dandy tape measure. That is a 3-inch bit. So we'll have about a 2.5-inch sphere when this is done. But we write the bit size on there. So we'll write 3-inch. And then I'm going to take and put my bit on there. And we'll mark right where we want to drill. This will really help after it's plastered. All right, look at that. Now the next step is we usually do a few of these at a time, and maybe I'll grab some other stones so we can do a little batch, not waste the plaster. What I do like to do is take little chunks of plaster or rock chips and you prop up the stone. Let's see, I'll do it over here so you guys can see a little bit better. Prop up the stone with exactly the angle you want to drill it at. You want this to be as flat as possible. It'll make the drilling just go so much faster because we can sink into that rock a lot quicker. So that's about perfect right there. So on this piece, I'll take and lay it out, and then I can lay out my next few stones. And what we'll do is we'll mix up our plaster, and then I can come over here and just lift this up, plunk down a plop of plaster, stick it right back on there, and then I'll work the plaster up. So we'll grab a few more and we'll line up a few of these to do. You what? Team, you all want to unmute Tay's account? This is some of the Turkish stick agate. I think you guys are going to be blown away when you see that one drilled. Yeah, it's really cool stuff. All right, let me grab a couple other stones, and we'll get a couple of these lined up. I like to do them in batches. And ideally, it helps reduce the plaster waste. Plus, once you get coring, you're like, oh God, I just need to do a couple more. Let's see. This is the piece that I thought I had plastered up already. This is the piece of King Cobra for that I'm gonna put in my collection. I thought this was the one that I grabbed earlier, but it was that fruit cake. They look very similar when you're just looking at the rough. But this one, I'm thinking we'll probably size a bit because you see it tapers down to 2.5 right there. But we get a bit more out of this piece by propping it up. The plaster is ideally, you guys want me, thank you. Holds the rock in the right position. So like this piece, if it was just sitting flat on the table, Ed says you look especially pretty tonight. Ed says you look especially pretty tonight. Okay. And it holds it. Sorry, Tay's distracting me. Trying to focus here. Yeesh. Getting interrupted at work. But the plaster holds it in place so we can come down straight and drill on it, and it gives it support so it doesn't wobble. That's funny, Kathy. All right, so let me finish checking this. I think we're gonna do the same size on this one and grab the bit. Yeah, I think we'll just barely be able to squeeze it out of that one. I love using the core drill because it really makes it so that you can get a lot out of your piece. Let's see. Actually, I'll just do that one right here, and then we'll go around to the other side of the table. Yeah, I love to waste less material, that's for sure. Good rough rock is not cheap, and depending on the rock, it can be very limited. So you want to get the absolute most out of it, and this allows us to be very precise and not waste hardly anything. All right. Let me just write on this one. I don't need to really mark the circle on because I can see the whole thing pretty well. But I am going to put that it's a 3-inch bit on it. All right. And then Tay wants me to do one of these kilo pieces of lapis I got sitting here. So we'll drill up one of those too. I think these will also be about the same size bit. Let's see. I think this one will be perfect for a 3-inch right out of there. Yeah, that'll be a good one to drill. And I think this one might actually just sit stable on its own. Yeah, see that one? I put it on the table and I rock the piece. That's solid. It doesn't even need us to plaster that piece. So we'll be good. So let's mix up some plaster and we'll do these three right here, or these two right here. This one, I haven't decided if we're gonna drill this one yet. I think this one might be a better piece to slab up. It's killer color in there, but I don't like that fracture that's going through it. It's got two fractures that are going through it that I'm like, I haven't decided if I'm gonna slab that or spear that one. We might just slab it up. So we don't need too much plaster if we're just gonna do these two. Mel, you want to follow me around with the camera to show the plaster? The valve on there, I think, should be 1.25 inch NPT. Careful not to make them seasick while everybody's watching. All right. So this is number one casting plaster. I want a little more little scoop. It's pretty cheap. We can waste a little if we wind up with some extra. But when you're doing the plaster, yeah, the lapis will be gorgeous. When you're doing the plaster, you want it to be the consistency of like yogurt or like a frosty. So you want to mix just enough water in at a time to mix it up. You only get a few minutes of working time with it, so you got to be quick. So just add a little bit of water at a time. Kind of like feels like making pasta. You can unmute now that Tay's not yapping in your ear. Can you guys hear Mel? I can't hear you. No. Mm-mm. I mean, I can hear you talking in person, but not in the mic.
Yeah, we can't hear Mel.
Oh, I think that was just a tad bit too much water.
Be on. It should be on. Look, I don't see the red light.
I hear Cody.
I hear Cody.
Could that be muted on the computer, maybe?
That's possible. Oh, yeah. See, I bit too wet. You see how when I pick it up, it doesn't stay in my hand. It just goops out. I should have to squeeze it to get it to drop out.
Hello?
Oh, there you are.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Mel.
All right, there we go. Got it. Hello.
So I could wait for this to dry a little bit, or I can add a little bit more. I'm more inclined to just play with it here for a minute, so it firms up.
It's like mud soup.
It is. It's kind of fun to play with when it's like this. When it starts to get clumpy, I'm like, oh God. Hey, you want to go to the other side of the table right here?
Yeah.
I go on the across from me so
Oh,
you can.
oh. Gotcha.
Perfect. Gotcha. You can also throw salt in there or use hot water and it'll firm up faster. But that's more the consistency I'm looking for. Or see how it's not falling out of my hand, but when I squeeze, it comes out.
Yeah.
That's still on the wet side, but it's getting there. You'll sit here and be like, it's too wet, it's too wet. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh crap, it's drying really fast. All right. And when we break the plaster off, if you saw what I was setting the rock on, I was using little chunks of plaster, so I don't throw the plaster away. I just take and break it off the rock and break it up into giblets and use that. But put down a nice plop. When you're plastering like this, it takes about an hour for it to be really done. So what we usually do, like when John and I are spearing, well, or we're doing a batch, we'll do this before lunch, and then we'll go out to lunch. And when we get back, we can core up all the rock. And if you notice, I'm smearing it up the sides of the rock a little bit. That helped give it a much better bond. I'm so excited for this one. Let's see. This one I've had sitting around for a while. I picked out of John's stash and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna make a sphere for me out of that one.
Today's the day.
Today is the day. Well, I don't know that we'll get to these ones today because they're gonna dry, but I got other cool ones that we can do.
Oh, well,
Right? Oh yeah, you gotta mute when you're not talking because otherwise we echo.
I got it.
Perfect. All right, let me go rinse my hands, and you don't wash this down the sink. I just use the bin to rinse my hands off in, or if you're doing this in the garage, you can use the hose.
Hey, Kent, how you doing?
Oh, it does feel good to get that off your hands. I like playing with it when it's soft, like softer and goopier. But once it starts to firm up, it feels like it's sucking all the moisture out of your hands.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to coring. Fortunately, we got a rock lined up from last time, so we can go right at it. And it's important here. You gotta hold up the camera. You gotta hold up the camera so they can see my face.
Well, yeah.
This is important. When you're using the core drill, you gotta bring your glasses down a little bit and squint at it. That's the official John look for looking at the core drill.
Okay, I got
It
you.
makes all the difference in the world when you're coring. Oh, gotta turn on the air compressor too. But here's our lovely core drill. This is the CD4. This is the core drill that most people will buy because it'll fit in a standard garage. It's a good size. You can do up to a 6-inch core on this, which is bigger than most people will ever do. Most people are going to cut between 2 and 4-inch spheres, which is by far the most popular size. I tend to like a little bit smaller when I'm doing it, like a 1.5, but 2 inch is really good size. Very few people collect comparatively bigger spheres than they do smaller spheres. There's a lot more market for smaller spheres, so that's what people tend to do. Um, somebody asked us. I wasn't here yesterday, but Jordan sent me the question. It's like, well, if there's so many sphere cutters out there, you guys are cranking out so many spheres, or all these big spheres, big sphere shops, doing lots of spheres. Why would I cut spheres? And well, for 2 reasons. It's a lot of fun, which is, the best part of it. But it's also when you're doing sphere cutting like this, you got to cut unique, nice material, and there's always going to be a space for you. If you're cutting run-of-the-mill stuff, you might have a really hard time getting money out of a sphere that's worth it. But if you're cutting things like what we're going to make right here, there isn't enough of them in the world for the amount of people that want to collect them. Spheres are so big. I think spheres is one of the biggest parts of the lapidary industry because you don't have to like rocks to enjoy a sphere. a nice orb of something beautiful is something anybody can appreciate. So I think spheres really has a unique place in the lapidary world that a lot of other parts of it don't get to appreciate as much as spheres do. So as long as you're cutting good stuff, following the rules, you guys know what I mean. Then you'll be just fine. All right.
Spheres are always the first thing I show people when they ask what lapidary is.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. Get some of our projects out of here. There's a piece of lapis I was drilling the other day because I love that color lapis. That's some of my
Ooh,
favorite coloration.
nice and deep.
All right. And then we'll scrape out the bottom here. Our core drill is a little messy at the moment. John be looking at this thing going, dude. So, Cody, that's a note for you. Don't do as I do. Keep it clean.
Noted. Noted.
Do as he says, not as he does.
Yes, do as I say, not as I do. You'll be much happier that way, I promise. All right, let me turn on the compressor, and then I will change out the bit because we're going to do a small sphere because I want to cut a jig with you guys. A lot of people are like, gosh, what does that even mean? When you get the jigs for the first time, you have to cross drill them with a stone so that you can make them like hold the stone and cut it right. All right. I'm gonna just come to the other side of here. There we go. Let's see. Let me grab that 2-inch bit. We're gonna do one of those Neolites tonight. And this is actually perfect. This is a brand new bit. You can see that the top of this is not scraped off yet. Whenever I start using a brand new bit, I always take a razor blade and carefully scrape the top of that bit off. I'm not trying to mar the metal. I'm just scraping the powder coat off because I want this to sit nice and flat. So whenever I get a new bit set it up, this is step one. Take all the powder coat off the top of your bit there. That's exactly what you want, where it's down to the fresh metal. So when it tightens down, it's as flat as it can be. Because if you wind up with a little thick, little bubble of powder coat on one side, your bit will wobble like this in the drill, and it won't be. You'll end up wasting a little bit of material and not getting as smooth of a cut. All right, and then I always use the wrenches to tighten it down. You don't need to go crazy, but make sure it's snug. Let me hang our wrenches back up. I'm so excited to do this Neolite. Funny enough, I've never actually used the core drill for a 2-inch bit.
Really?
Yeah, I've never used one of this size bit before. Typically, I go bigger, and if I'm gonna do this size, I'll do it on the shaping machine.
Well, first time for everything.
All right, that's why these bits haven't been cut yet. Are the jigs? It is such a cute core bit. I love that size. So up here, this is the quick release handle. When I open that up, push this handle forward, it makes it so the whole head comes down. And what I'm going to do right now is just line it up with where I want to cut that first core out. Let's see, I'm actually going to turn it that way. Yeah, it looks about perfect. And then I don't have the screwdriver over here, but I do have my handy metal rod there that I'll use to hold this in place. So let's get the shield back up. When you're using the core drill, I'll hold the rock with this rod or a screwdriver or wooden dowel. I am absolutely never, when the core drill is gonna touch that rock with my hand. I'm never gonna reach down here and grab it or move it while the bit is running. I do know of one customer that they had where the rock or the bit grabbed the rock and it started spinning. It was a great big rock. The guy grabbed it and ripped a finger off. So don't grab it while the bit's running. Cody and Mel's faces both like, oh, we'll remember that. Don't worry.
Oh, no, thank you.
All right, let's come over here and turn our Everclean on. Turn our core drill on. Our speed is going to be plenty fast because, yeah, that's overkill, but I like it to go fast. I know, right? Shocking. Gonna turn our pump on. Then we'll turn our bit rotation on right there. I'm going to push this handle forward so it's pushing it down. I'm going to open up the slow valve. This lets it down really slow first. And you can see on the depth gauge here, it's dropping really slowly. So I'm going to open that up first, and then I'm going to use the quick handle to bring it down just enough that it's kissing the rock. You don't want to slam the bit into the rock. You just want it to kiss. So as soon as you start touching like that, then I can open this up a little bit, and I'm holding the rock in place with that metal rod so that it doesn't spin out when this gets started here. I don't got to hold it the whole time. Once we get cutting in, it'll be just fine.
Zeke, did you set your 0?
No, I did not. I always forget to set the 0. I'll show you guys how to do that when we're done with this cut.
Tiffany is asking, are you teaching us the right way or the rebellious way?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, yes also.
It's a mixture of proper technique from John and Zeke adaptation. I don't like the sound of this bit either. It's making kind of a rumbly noise instead of a nice sharp cutting noise. So also when you get new bits, sometimes I'll take them over to the bench grinder and take a little bit of segment off the top with a wheel, like a grinding wheel, so they're really sharp and fresh. Because this one's cutting kind of slow and it's making a little bit of a rumbly sound instead of a nice sharp cutting sound. You hear that difference in that like a little
Yeah.
so the bit's not sharp enough.
It sounds like you're waving like an aluminum like board. You know, like the
Yeah.
whoa, yeah. How long does it usually take?
For a core like this, if the bit was sharp, well, it should take like 5 minutes. It'll probably take us a little bit longer than that because that bit is definitely too fresh. We'll take it out after this cut and we'll sharpen it so you guys can see how I do that. Because I hate stopping a cut when it's already in place and it's cutting okay, but it's not great. It could be cutting a lot better. And when you guys start a process like this, don't get too paranoid about all the noises the machine makes and the drill or the rock makes, because when you're new, you don't necessarily know what sounds are going to be important or what or not. So like if you're like maybe it's making noise, you can send us a video to check. Um, I definitely wouldn't be like, oh my god, all my bits are bad. It's making a whoop 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 sound. Until you know what like good and bad sounds like. Because I answer a lot of those questions where people send us videos, be like, I need you to listen to this and make sure it sounds okay. It sounds a lot better now that it's a little bit deeper into the rock because it's wearing down that
Yeah.
segment. That's a good hard rock too. Quartz is sharp.
From Gary, is there a tool made to fasten the rock to the base?
Nope, just the plaster. People will make their own stuff, but I've tried all of it. Nothing works as good as the plaster. I was heavily against the plaster when I first started doing this, and John was like, "Well, that's the right way, dude. You got to do it." And I refused to use plaster until I worked here. And after John and I did a batch of plastering, and he showed me how to set all this up, I was like, "Oh, actually, your way is a lot better." So I try not to argue with John about this stuff too much. I still do, but not too much. Yeah, I feel like we should already be through this rock right now. This feels like it's taking a really long time with this dull bit.
It's already 5 minutes.
See, taking too long. We're almost there. You know, if you're cutting as a hobbyist, it's not as important that I'm like, oh my God, we need to be under 5 minutes for this cut because you're just enjoying the process. As a production cutter, I'm going, oh my God, I should be halfway through my next cut already. That's why I had so many saws, is because it's like, well, if I can only be out there for 12 hours a day, I need to up my production, and I can only up it by adding more saws in. Same with core drills. I was actually looking at getting a second core drill to put next to my other core drill so I could run both at the same time.
Zeke, how do you know it reached the bottom?
So without zeroing it, I'll be able to hear when it gets through the rock, and it's almost through the rock right there. It'll change sound. And if you watch the depth gauge, it'll start cutting a lot faster when it's only cutting plaster. But you can hear it. Can you hear it, Mal, getting quieter? It'll get a lot quieter. Like we're right just a little bit on the very last edge.
It sounds slow now.
Yeah, because it's making a very little contact with rock. And I'm gonna put my hand on the e-stop button right there, and it should go dunk here in a second. If it doesn't get dunk before 3 millimeters, then I'm gonna hit stop. But we'll check it. Should be real close right there. But you'll get to where you don't really need the gauge to do it. A gauge is nice and it's helpful, but you can do it all by sound. Yeah, look at that. Popped right out. Look at that flash right
Ooh.
there. Get it on the other side there too. Isn't that such a cute little core?
Yeah.
That's gonna be a sweet ball. You can actually see though at the top here where it was scraping a little bit more metal. Sometimes that can also be an indication that it wasn't going down straight or the rock was wobbling, but that's a pretty smooth cut. Let's take this off and sharpen it though, because I don't like how it's cutting.
Zeke,
And that's a
there's
good thing for you guys to see.
echo. It's echoing.
Gosh, Mel. I'll echo it on us. All right. Take that out of the way. We'll take this bit off again. Yeah, you can see where the segments, like it hasn't even gotten down right here yet, and it's a little bit more into that segment. That one doesn't have much diamond exposed yet either. So, because these are brand new segments, we're going to go fix this bit. Get it sharp. We want it to cut real good. We got a couple more paper towels. All right, let's go over to the bench grinder. You could also do this with a file if you don't have a bench grinder. But I usually take it with a standard bench grinding wheel and just clean up those segments a little bit. You can actually, let's see if it'll focus on that, where you can start to see diamonds sticking out now. It's just because it was fresh, it had a little layer on there. I wouldn't do this all the time, but since it's brand new, yeah, see, like that segment, it wasn't showing any diamond, and I just took a little layer off, and now it's totally exposed. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's all we need to do. We can go put this bit back on, and it'll cut way better on the next one.
From Lawrence, could you use the Intarsha flat lap for a perfectly level cut? Zeke?
I wouldn't, because it doesn't matter if it's perfect. And the diamond won't cut it as good as like that grinding wheel will to get it sharp. The diamond is going to wear against the diamond and make it less sharp. So if I didn't have like a bench grinder like that, I would just use like a bastard or milling file, and grind it down a little bit with that or file it down. All right, got that on there. And don't let me start that again without zeroing it. But it doesn't need to be perfect because it'll wear down as it cuts. All right, let's move it over a little bit, get it lined up for our next cut. I do like how cute that little core is.
Zeke,
You know what I was
how to do how to set the zero? Yeah.
see, look at that. I told you I was gonna forget. Well, this one's pretty close to zero already, but you see, I just let it come down all the way onto the deck. And if you look right here, there's a C and F button. I'm gonna push both those at the same time, and that's gonna zero it out. Yeah, we were about 2 seconds away from me going, all right, we'll start this next cut. When I had my shop as well, I would always forget to do the zero. All right, and before we start this, let's go check on that 16 on that piece of King Cobra. I think Cody opened it up for us.
Yes, I did.
Oh, that's a cool piece. First cut off of it. All right.
Zeke, what blade do you have on the saw?
This is one of the precision black blades, the Highland Park precision blade. That is really nice pattern in there. I like that a lot. All right, for our next cut, I really should measure this, but We're again gonna eyeball it. I'm gonna take and stick it flat against the base of the vise there. Little rock chips. Flat. And we're just gonna cut the end off, and then we'll measure on our next cut. It's not super critical to measure on this cut. The more perfect your square is, I'm trying not to let the vise lift the rock. The more perfect your cube is, the much easier time you will have grinding it down. So you guys can see how great that is, because in the time that this cut, and then we waited a little long, this was done for a little bit, but in the time that this cut, our first cut, we plastered a few rocks and did the equivalent of 8 cuts, because doing that core is the equivalent of doing 8 cuts in the saw like here to make your preform for that first cut. And we also need to shorten the chain just a tad bit. We're going to guesstimate it's about right there. I'm big on guesstimation. Mel's like, yeah, I know. All right, let's back over to the core drill over here. Get us lined up. All right, let's go ahead and cut our next one. This one should cut a lot faster. Yeah, the sound's different. It's a higher pitch, sharper sound now. Oh, it sounds so much better on that bit.
Gary
All right, well, you
saying,
guys go
sorry.
ahead.
Gary saying, I missed the part about the plaster. Can you please explain?
The plaster, you're just plastering the rock so that it sits, so that the face of your stone is flat, so you can get a nice drill face on there. It also makes it so the rock doesn't wobble, so you don't break a bit. The plaster is really kind of your vise for the core drill. Because of the way air and hydraulics work, It'll also, as you get further in the stone, cut a little bit slower. So about halfway through the cut-ish, I'll walk over and speed it up a little bit. Get it back to that speed that I like. In a perfect world, I got the bit putting enough force on the rock that it sounds really quiet, almost like it's not cutting once you're into the cut. And you'll start to see, like, when I'm happy with where it's at, it'll start to skip numbers. See how it went from 2 to 0? That's a good pace to be cutting at. That's really fast. Now, I was cutting something like the copper chrysocolla. I wouldn't dream of going that fast. But on something like this, it would be just fine cutting it that fast. Yeah, it's just because the new bit when it's made, it just had a little bit layer of the matrix on the segment on top, and there wasn't much diamond exposed yet. So a little grinding a little bit off exposed a nice amount of diamond, so it's really sharp. That's pretty common with especially with core bits. A lot of the blades that we sell, they'll take and grind them before they send them to us. That's almost done right there, coming up right on the end. All right, what was our time?
4:47.
Oh, all right.
Yep. 4 minutes and 47 seconds.
I'm happier with that. What were we on the first one?
Around 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time off. Oh, that was really good too. There's a flash in that. It's funny. This is a perfect example too, because if you cut this stuff not lined up to the flash, it's just kind of brown. But when you get lined up to the flash, you get that beautiful chatoyancy in there. All right, let's go ahead and set those to the side for a second. Take the front off here, and we're gonna set up our jig.
From David, is that an okay way to sharpen them too?
I wouldn't do that all the time, just when they're brand new. And when they're if you once you're using it and you need to sharpen it, then the same thing where you take a bastard file and sharpen it. I can show you guys how I normally sharpen the bits on another one I got sitting here. Well, I'm breaking our putty knife there. All right, let's grab a core and oh, I need to grab the jig. I forgot to grab the jig. All right, you want to grab the tripod and come over here? You can take a break from holding it while I set this jig up. All right. Should be able to stick it in there. All right, now you notice this jig right here. The core bit just wobbles in there. Hey Mel, would you grab another one of these lights off of the lifestyle station? Thank you. It just wobbles in there. So we're gonna fix that because you want this nice and tight. I like it when I use the cordial, I like to be able to press this down in there and have it stay. So what I'm gonna do is let me find a hammer. And I know somebody watching for the first time is gonna go, "Oh my God, he's gonna beat on a brand new jig with a hammer." And yes, that's exactly what we're gonna do. So the easiest way I have found to do this is to use, you can see where I've done it before here with this red right here. What I do is I take our, oh, this one's so small. I'm gonna have to use this corner. Well, what I'll do is when Mel's done here, move the camera over. Don't unscrew it. You unscrew the light from the bracket. But what we'll do is we'll stick it on the edge there, and I'll take the hammer and beat evenly across the side of that. And then I'll check it. See, I went a little too far in. I'll hit it back the other way. Oh, that is good right there. I mean, that's a little snug because I can pick up the whole jig right there. But that is it's a little tight. I do like it when it's really snug like that. Because it means your rock is not wobbling around. Let's see. Perfect. I like it. The other thing we can do if it gets too snug in there is we can take a screwdriver and pop it out. Just take it and stick it under there, wobble it out. This will open up a little bit more over time. So occasionally you'll come back and hit it back into place. All right, let's go stick this in the oh, hello, Tay.
Ed is asking, is there a technical term for doing this, Zeke?
Give it a good whack. That is the technical term, I think. All right, let me grab a wrench so we can get this cut or set up. If I'm remembering right, I need a 9/16. And I did not remember right. Because that is too big. Let's try half. There we go. That's better. So we'll just loosen these brackets up right here. Damn, gross. Don't touch me. Flashbacks. Remember when you're like, touch me? Okay. Of course she is.
Well, yes, girl power.
All right. I'll line this up here. John will use a set of calipers to check this. I have found my favorite way of doing this is taking and marking one of the segments with a Sharpie so that I'm checking the same segment on the front and the back. But the goal is to get this perfectly centered. And if it's not perfect, we can come back and readjust it. It's not the end of the world. Excuse me. Let's see. So I'm gonna use that same segment. Yeah, see, we're a little too far. And I got a way to check once we cut a rock if it is, in fact, lined up good. But I just eyeball it. Of course, then it moves on you. Little bits at a time. I'm just sliding it back and forth, getting it lined up. That looks pretty good right there. So I'm gonna be careful when I tighten these down, not to use the rotation of the bolt there to move the location. So sometimes I'll pull on it a little bit or hold it pretty good while I'm tightening it down. Once I get it tightened down, I'm going to go around and check it again. That's pretty darn close. All right. And then after we do our first cut, then we'll set up our locating pin. I think this is probably the most scary and worst part of the whole core drill process for everybody that starts is setting up these jigs. Right. Tap that over just a tad bit. Need me mallet. Mallet is a good tool to keep around when you're doing this kind of stuff. Because you only really need the rock to be touching the inside of that bit to get a good cut. And our best flash is over on this edge that I like. All right, that literally looks like it's gonna be skating right on the inside edge. Don't. Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's do our first cut with a brand new jig. I hate when I lift the camera right out of the tripod. And you could also re-zero for this, but in my experience, those jigs are about 10 millimeters thick-ish. So if instead of stopping at 0, well, actually, no, it's a little bit higher than that. You want to stop at about 19 millimeters for your first cut is generally what I experience. And I'm not going to cut near as fast on this first cut because it's got to cut the jig as well. So I'm going to keep it at a much steadier speed and we'll let it work its way through. You can see right there, it's dropping much slower, closer to like a 0.1 millimeter a second. All right, let's go see if the 16 is done. Sounds done. Let's see. Yep. You want to come bring the camera over here. I'm just gonna grab a tape measure. It's everybody's favorite word around here for me to say. Measure. They all harass me for it. And I still left a little too long on the chain. So now that I have a cut face there, I'll just shorten it up right here. One of the other things that's really cool about the core drill is you can see how good your sphere is going to be after the first cut, and it's faster than your first cut on the saw. Now, in this case, it's still an attractive piece, but you can see this cut is much prettier than this cut. And so you're like, maybe you get 8 cuts in and you discover what one face has a big crack in it, and you're like, God, that sucks. I'm gonna have to not finish that sphere now. Whereas with the core drill, on your first cut, you're gonna know if it's gonna be a pretty decent sphere or not. Let's see. Now that we got 2 cuts in, pretty darn close on our 90. It's not a perfect 90, but it's close. Let's see. Well, this one could actually be really close to a 2.5-inch ball too. I probably wouldn't cut it quite for that big. We'll cut it for maybe like 2.25. So now that we got 2 faces in, I can rotate it and do our next face to continue our cube here. Oh. You know what I didn't do? I didn't turn down the bit speed. So we had the core drill jam up. I had the bit going way too fast. All right, that's better. It got jammed up, so I had to just reset it so it was cut and turn it down a little bit. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing and just kind of each step of the way and looking at it, make sure you're looking at the inside of the blade, not the outside of the blade, because otherwise you're going to lose the thickness of the blade there.
Gregor Moore is saying, first rule of core drill, don't walk away from the drill when in action.
Yeah, you don't want to walk away too far. That's for sure.
Remember, do as you say, not as you do.
Exactly. Yeah, you shouldn't really walk away. About setting up the saw is about as fast as I'll walk away. Well, something ain't right because it done jammed up again. It's pretty rare that I have the drill jam.
Ed is asking, does the core drill have a slip clutch for when it jams?
I don't know how the system works, but the computer, if it gets overloaded, the computer shuts it off. Which is good because I don't stop it up often, but when I do, it's usually because I'm going way too fast. Now it's starting to get in there and cut the jig a little bit. That is one thing I do like about the CD1 over the CD4 is that one is much harder to stop. I tend to use the CD1 more. And I've noticed that I jam up the CD4 more after I've been using the CD1 a lot because I'll push it so hard. And that one has a much bigger motor on it. But it's pretty rare to jam up the motor if you're not going crazy fast. When I had my shop, usually the only time I jam it up because it's funny when I had my shop I'd cut really slow, and as I got better and better, I just got faster and faster and less patient. And when I started doing this with John, I was like, oh, we can go a little faster, a little faster, a little faster. So we were cranking it. All right, while you guys watch this, I'm gonna run and grab a drink really quick. This gets down to 19 millimeters before I get back. Just hit this button right there. Although that shouldn't happen. And then we can start up that other core drill with some of those other core or other pieces to drill. You guys learning something tonight?
I'm learning that all of these parts that I ship every day and where they all go. Hi, Ed.
I'm curious, what's your guys' favorite sphere? It can be bought or cut. But like in your collection, what's your favorite sphere? Round ones. Round ones said. Oh yeah, the fossil ones can be really good. Gambaba's a good material. Let's see. Let's get this other core drill running. Oh my goodness, you don't have a sphere in your collection yet? You gotta fix that. Uperlite is really cool. Some of the old Mexican laces are really good. We did 19 millimeters yet? Mel is watching
21.
intently.
I like it. It's cool.
It is very addicting to stand in front of that machine and just watch while it cuts. Oh, that's awesome, Kyle.
Before it's 19 or like at
Right at
19?
right at
Okay.
19. Oh. Oh, that's exciting, Brad. All right, let me grab the other part we
Boom.
need. Good work, Mel. Mel was watching that thing like a hawk, you know.
I was.
Let me grab a wrench.
I don't get to be with the rocks as much anymore.
Let's see. I think this is an 11/16.
Hello. Oh, Ed, I'm in the parts world. I'm packing parts and shipping out machines.
17 millimeter fits good. All right. Now we're gonna set our pin to do our next drill. Although we're gonna, before you go pulling the sphere out of the jig, pay attention to how it's sitting because you may need to adjust. Oh, yep. See, we need to adjust this jig right here. Down the line. You see how it's smooth going that direction right there? And if we go to the complete opposite side, it's smooth going in the opposite way. Ideally, this should come close to a perfect X across both faces. When it's smooth going this way and round going this way, I can tell that the bit was sitting too far this direction on the core. And so we need to move this jig, the jig right here, back a little bit so that it's a little bit more lined up. You can see it a little bit if you look how it cut too far into the core this way. So, I mean, this is not horrendous, but we can do better. I'm sorry. We don't need to move the jig back. We need to move it forward. I have that right. Let's see. Yeah, we need to move the jig a little forward, not back. So let's do that.
Oh yeah, no problem, David.
So I don't move it much. Let's see, I just did it the wrong way, didn't I? Gosh, am I paying attention at all? Bring the bit down. Now that I moved it the wrong way, I gotta check it again. You can even see in the jig too, right here, how we cut a little bit more on this side compared to the back side. Yeah, I'm gonna move it a little bit more. I moved it the wrong way and then moved it back about enough for it to be. We'll try that right there. And if you've never done this before, I highly recommend that you start with a rock that you don't particularly love. In case you mess up, you can go fix it. Look at that cross joint we cross drilled though. How nice and shiny that is. All right. Now let's set up our locating pin. So when you're doing the locating pin, you want it to hold in the exact same position this way every time, so that when you're using this pin, when you put it in the first slot here, is going to be right up against where the sphere needs to sit. Oh, might need a longer. Let me grab one of the longer handles. These little handle part comes with the thing, but I got a pile of them over here because we got a zillion jigs sitting here. You guys like this? This is normally the unfun part that we really don't show that much. The scraps, like this piece that came off, that's still perfectly cabbable. We'll save them. I used to make more actually saving the little scraps like this and cutting them to cabs than usually on the spheres. Oh, no, that one's so long. Gotta pull our jig out to get it in there. This one is a little excessively long, but we'll make it work. All right. So the goal when you do your first three cuts is that every side has that X in the ridges. If you can get all three sides like that, then you will be golden. Usually what I do is I'll take and stick the preform in there. Get a little bit closer. Kind of get it centered. And then I'll move the threaded rod right up against the piece there. And then I'll tighten this nut down. And before I tighten it down, though, the other thing I like to do is take the ow, a nice cut on that sharp metal edge. Put the bit down and feel the inside of the segment and to see if it's lined up with that. So I'll take and that feels about perfect right there. We'll take that, tighten it down, and we're good to make our next cut. So not too bad if you follow the process. So usually when you're using the jig, this will sit in the second position there. And then you'll take and stick your preform in there, put your locating pin and push it down. That's good right there. And if you need to, you can then take and tap that over so it's sitting perfectly in place. What John will teach for this next step is that when you start the core drill, you start with the locating pin there and you hold the other side in place like this. And then when it gets in, so it's cutting in all four corners, you lift this up, move it out of the way, and you can move that. I don't like to do that. I like to just start it fast enough that it doesn't move when I get it started. But that is how John would do it. All right, Mel, watch this. And if all four corners fall off, hit the E-stop. Or if you get down to 29 millimeters, hit the E-stop. Whichever comes first. Thank you. Cody's still looking miserable playing with Rocket. Any of you guys thinking about getting a core drill tonight? Or thinking, gosh, I need to get some jigs for my saw? Or I need a sphere machine? We haven't even gotten over to sphere machines yet. That'll be fun.
Zeke, you did say 29, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Know where you stopped it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. You know where the band-aids are?
Yeah, I can get you one.
Oh, thank you. Like, I cannot find band-aids. I got Neosporin all on my thumb, but I can't find the band-aids.
How'd you find Neosporin and not a Band-Aid?
Well, they weren't in the drawer together. Let's see. We could go a little bit longer. Oh, well, as soon as I started it again, the corners fell off. For a little sphere like this, I only drill them 3 times. If it's bigger than a 2 inch, then I would drill it 5 times. Now, again, gotta pay attention to where the orientation is because we need to see what adjustments we need to make. We got that adjustment down real close to perfect. It's still a little off, but it's really close. And our side adjustment is a little too far, so the stone's a little too far this way. So we need to back that pin up a couple threads. But that right there is really close to a perfect X. It's still a little off, but it's really close. Isn't that cute? Yeah, that's Neolite. Oh, gotta move this out of the way. It fell down in the way. It's like, why is that not coming off? Oh, thank you. Let me turn that. We'll turn it about one rotation. Tighten that back up. And now, because I cut 2 cores, we can check to see how good we did by cutting our next preform. Yes, Ed. I normally don't wear band-aids, but Tay was like, you're required to. I was like, oh. It was funny earlier. Jordan was digging through rock, and apparently she hadn't dug through rock in a minute because she came over after a few minutes and was like, I remember why we wear gloves. I think that was when you helped her dig that rock chip out of her thumb.
Yeah, she had a little splinter, so I had to like hold it open so she could pull it out with the tweezers. We did get it out though, don't worry.
All right. I'm gonna go wash the oil off so I can put one of those band-aids on. Will you just stick that? Thank you. Oh, it looks like our King Cobra's done too. Ready to go. Move that over to the next face. No amputations, right? We do not have a deal going on the oil right now, but we do have lots in stock. Hey Mel, did we finish the inventory on that new stuff?
The oil that came in?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can tell them about that.
Yeah.
Oh, good. If you guys are waiting on barrels of oil, we just got the biggest batch of barrels of oil I think I've ever seen. And they will go fast. So if you guys are like, man, I've been waiting for him to come in stock to order one, now is a really good time because we got tons of barrels of oil. Ooh, can I tell them about did those get done too? Put in the system? Ah,
Not yet.
either of them?
Either of them.
Ah, hey, Stuart.
Patience,
Yeah.
grasshopper.
Cody was giving a boo, thumbs down. Oh,
It's not
awesome.
me. It's not me.
Ah,
The oil does go quick. I've already shipped like 6 of the drums.
yeah, I'm not surprised. I couldn't believe how many we got, but they'll still fly out of here. The straight. Oh, that's fun. Oh, Lizelle might be able to hook you up with something, Gregory. Depending on what you want. Let's see, this one's just about done with this first cut here. And then we'll set it up for our next cut and go check on that King Cobra. I do really like using a core drill. This is my favorite machine to use. Oh, let's see, where's my handy dandy screwdriver? All right, again, make sure you pay attention to the orientation. You see, we're still a little off, but it's close enough that I'm not going to change it again. That's pretty good. If it was a bigger sphere, I would adjust it. But that's only going to affect a very little on such a small sphere. Because the biggest thing that not getting them lined up perfectly will do is add grind time to your piece. But it'll go so fast to grind these preforms out.
Gregory is asking if you have any deals on accessories tonight.
I didn't have any plans. Depends on what you want. We might be able to come up with something. Usually we don't do like just blanket accessory deals, but might be able to work something out. All right. You want to watch that till all the corners fall off? Perfect. Go check this King Cobra. All right. So we actually cut the a hair over 2 3/8. We'll cut it. I was like, why can I not figure out which way to turn it? We'll cut it this way now. I know, I couldn't believe that Monday is a holiday. Tay was like, most people won't be here Monday, and I was like, why? And then all the new people laughed because they were learning that we don't normally take holidays. I mean, you're allowed to have holidays here, but like it's very rare for that on a holiday that we're not here working. Get this lined up as square as possible. You can tell I just love doing sphere preforms this way.
Michael is asking how much for some slabs of that, Zeke.
Of the King Cobra, we could high bid off the end cuts here. All right, let's see. Yeah, move that over a tad bit. All right. Well, I don't love that cut right there, but we'll line that up. You guys want to do high bid on the end cuts of the King Cobra? We can do high bid on that. Someone want to start us? Hey, Cody.
Piece with 30.
That is beautiful pattern in there. Love that mix. Oh, you're good. I'm just gonna have you wash these as we auction them off. Keith's 30. I'm getting ready to sell it. Sold.
Okay. Kent is asking, are the plastic containers for the Everclean reusable?
Yes, you can definitely reuse them. Someone want to start us on this piece?
Michael is 25.
I just want if you have a slab grabber, you can take another cut off of it. And I'm getting ready to sell it.
Keys with 30.
I'm still getting ready to sell it. I do like all the little orbs in there too. We could go do tote out of this bin later. There's some really nice red pieces in there too right now. Sold. Cody, I'm throwing that piece right there. Where you just wipe that one. Oh yeah, perfect. Grabbing a lot number and everything. Oh, look at Cody go. That's lot 7479 for the first one. And then Cody will watch the other one, get a lot number for you guys. I know, Cody's awesome. I like this. This is an interesting combination having Cody and Mel here. But I like it.
Mark is asking, does the plastic can for the EC2 work with EC1?
Yep. Oh, shucks. I didn't show Mel to pull the handle back. So it cut down through there and pressed the preform up into the bit. Which is a good opportunity to show you guys how to get a preform out. If it gets stuck in the bit like that, because that thing is pressed all the way in. Let me grab the wrenches. There we go.
It's lot 6770 for that second one.
Thank you.
I'll show you guys that they're stuck in there pretty good. When they're stuck, I'll show you the easiest way I found to get them out. When you stop the drill, just for future reference, nothing you did, I just forgot to tell you. When you stop the drill, pull this handle towards you. All right. Let me grab my handy dandy sphere pushing tool, preform tool, and then we'll go over to the bin of oil absorbent and I'll show you guys this. Oh, dang it. The one I normally use isn't long enough. Normally I keep a very long wooden dowel around. Because when they're stuck in there, of course, we don't have one that's long enough for this bit. You don't want to use something too hard as to not damage the sphere.
Mark is saying, blow it out, Zeke.
I don't think anything's gonna blow quite that hard.
And Ed is saying, use a cutting torch.
Cutting torch. Let's just cut the bit in half, open it up like a Damascus canister.
Mike is saying, broom handle.
We might have a broom handle. Let's see. That will fit in there. That's a good idea. I actually think I have a wooden one tucked. You just remind me, I have a wooden one tucked back here. That doesn't have anything on it yet.
Kiss is saying, firecracker.
Firecracker.
And Jeff is saying, pressure cannon.
All right. You want to bring this over here, Mel? The camera over here? Normally, I would just stick a wooden dowel in there and then use a hammer to tap it. But they get stuck in there pretty good. So you just want something soft enough like wood and long enough that you can push it out. But they are a lot more stuck than you realize when they get stuck in there. And I'm happy we didn't break the bit. All right. Well, it worked out that we Put that in there because we needed to clean it off anyway. Now we can go grind it into a little ball. All right. I was like, what am I doing? Setting the bit down. Let me go wash this and then we can take it over to the cab machine. All right, there's our little preform. This will be somewhere between 1.5 inch and 1 3/4. I'm gonna guess a lot closer to 1.5 inch when we're done. That was a cute little ball. Let me turn on the water for the cab machine. And that was just 3 cuts. If I was doing anything bigger, I'd do at least 5 cuts. Ooh, look at that. And we sharpened the 80 grit wheel so it's fresh. I forgot about that. Let's start with I pick a top and a bottom, and then I go for it. Because we did 3 cuts, I'm going to start on one of those high corners and work that in, and then we'll do our second little set of ridges with a bastard file. The wet belt sander doesn't do as good of a job at the grinding part of it. It does a lot better removing scratches, but doing the grind part, that 80 grit or a 60 grit centered wheel will work a lot better. So you can see how we have all of our smaller little ridges now. I'll go back around, take those off. And you can see even with setting up the jig and everything, still not taking us very long to crank out a little ball. I mean, most of the work we've done tonight is just setting up so that you guys know how to use it. You can see once we're set up, we could sit there and crank out tons of these. All right, that side's ready for the sphere machine. We'll flip it over and do the exact same process. Mouth trying to keep up with the brain. Well, let's see, I'm gonna move you guys in a little bit closer. Hold on for dear life for shaking here for a second while I fix the tripod. Everybody's going, woo, motion sick. These are getting stiffer and stiffer the more rock gunk we get on them. Earthquake. All right, now that everybody needs a puke bucket, move you a little closer here so you can see, get a better idea of the process that I'm following of where I'm starting on the corner, working it in. So you can see that's one of our points that they can grind that in. Yeah, because you end up with more of a point where the corners come together. And so I'm just working those down, and then I'll go back around and do these smaller ridges. No, it's quartz. Imagine quartz and tiger eye. That's a decent 7, you know. I'd call it a low 7, but it's still pretty hard. Nothing really. You'll get little chips if it's a brittle material. But because you're not really grinding on an edge, you're grinding on kind of a lot of rolled faces where they're meeting together. You do tend to get a lot less chipping than if you're grinding like a slab to make a cab. But I've had spheres where you get a chip out of it and it's like, all right, either grind it out or cut it up for cabs. That centered wheel does fill. If you didn't grind off the corners, it just wouldn't work in the sphere machine. It would just get stuck and grind little cores out of your sphere. This is neolite. All right. That's ready to go in the sphere machine. I've never done that because it's wildly more expensive than buying a centered wheel. If you're gonna get decent blades, excuse me. I do know people do that. It's not something I would do. Anything up to about 6 inches, I would just use the centered wheel. And if it's bigger than 6 inches, then what I do is cut a bore, like I take a piece of plywood and cut holes slightly smaller than the sphere. So the preform sits down in it, and then I'd use the wet grinder to take off the corners. All right. Should we go over to the sphere machine next? take all the tools out of my pocket. I do love making spheres. It's such a fun process. All right, let's open that up right there. And it helps if you don't break your cups. We're good. Fortunately, the segment part of that caught my foot instead of the floor. Just checking its rigidity. Chipability? Shatterability?
Ed said better to break a toe.
Ah, sure. You can still make a sphere with a broken toe.
Yeah, you can.
You got a broken cup, that's going to slow you down a little bit. Let's start out here. These are 60-80 grit mix cups. We just call them 80 cups, but it's actually 60 and 80 grit mixed together. So technically it'd be like a 70 grit.
Is there a deal on the jigs tonight, Dick?
That's a good question. Let's see, do we have jig sets in stock?
Check on it, Dick.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'll take our bungee and put it back on there. One thing I love about the high-speed sphere machine is it's got a pedal to separate the head on here, so I can push the pedal down and it lifts all the cups back. And now we can get it adjusted. One thing I commonly see people do online is they have the sphere heads pointed way up, which is a nightmare to work with. It makes it so hard to get good rotation and prevent the sphere from popping out. I make these heads as level as absolutely possible.
There's echo, Dick.
I think Mel muted. There we go. You guys still hear the echo?
Sounds good.
All right. All right. And then how we check the cups is you pull back on the head, and what you want to see is the bottom edge of the cup lifting the preform. So you see how that one's lifting a little bit? This one making no contact at all. I can pull that back and it's having no effect on the cup or no effect on the sphere. So I'll pull it back and then move it in. So it's touching just a little bit. Then I'll go back around and check all of them again. And it's hard to get it perfect on a rough ball like this. So you just need to get it real close. That's really good right there. Let me turn the water on. You just want to drip when it comes to water. You don't want to be soaking the sphere. You'll hear John tell me all the time, dude, you're using way too much water. I do like to flood it when I start so that it's wet all the way around. And then I'll turn it so it's just a drip. That's probably still too much.
Brett Bouvet, he's asking, what were those slab tiles next to the capping machine?
Oh, it's not tiles, it's just a bunch of hex cabs that Tay is working on. All right. And when sorry, go ahead, Dom.
Joseph is asking, what size cutters?
I think those are 1 9/16 inch. All right, before we start the machine here, I always put my foot on the pedal to release the heads so that if the preform does pop out, let's adjust those a little bit. If it does pop out, the cups don't go smashing together. So I'll put my foot on there, and then we can fire up the machine, turn down the water, and what you're looking for is the sphere to be moving in an X pattern. So it'll move side to side instead of just rotating in one direction. And one thing that John will teach to do is to grab, you want to move the camera back so they can see what I'm doing. You want to move the camera back so they get a whole picture of what I'm doing. Is you grab one head like this, put your elbow on one head and your other hand like this, and you can actually control the movement and add pressure doing it this way. So if you really want to speed up your process, you'll give it a little bit of help there. I'll drying out.
Mike is saying we need a deal on an entire set of cups.
Higher set of cups. That's what size cups? All right, so you can see this one, we had a couple little chips or where we ground in a little too much. Otherwise, the sphere is perfectly round, but we have to get those spots out. So we'll run this a little bit longer, but that's pretty much done. I did grind in enough that I'm going to move the heads all in a little bit. You can see this really fast. And it's nice. I don't know if you guys saw while we were grinding. You can see the mud building up. You don't want the sphere clean enough where you're not getting mud. So like, see, that's kind of like right on the edge of too much. I'd turn that down just a little bit because you should get a layer of mud that starts building up around the edge of your cups there. Yeah, still got a couple little flat spots in this area where it chipped right here. Need to get that out. The
Sherry,
first step.
go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Ahmed. You're good.
Sherry was asking, are you going to do cut and chat on the LSSM?
Yeah, the LSSM, we can show that. It's pretty much exactly the same process. It's just a lot slower in comparison to the high-speed machine, but it's almost everything's almost exactly the same. The only difference is how you adjust the machine and how long it takes. Well, I can show you guys that as well. Generally, when we're using it, we only use the high-speed machine for doing like final polish because it does take a lot longer for doing the whole process. So we'll run through all of our grinding steps all the way up to 8,000 grit and then keep our LSSM for doing the final polish. One of the other things a lot of people will do is they'll start with an LSSM and they will make a sphere on there and then they'll make spheres on there. And then when they're like, all right, I want to go faster, they'll get a high speed machine and then keep their low speed for doing final polish. Because that's the biggest downside to the high speed machine is it's not as good on the final polish like using your diamond and milk or your leather and cerium. I keep leaving the bungees on here, and I think they're losing a little strength. Getting a little too stretched out. Like, I want more pressure. Crank it up.
Sherry is asking, why do the motors get so hot? Is that normal?
Yeah, that's normal. AC motors don't tend to be super efficient. Eventually, John will make a conversion for the high-speed machine to be um, variable speed, but that's a ways out still. Oh, it's also normal for the spheres to get pretty warm. Here, feel that, Mal. Touch it. You see, it's pretty toasty. You're doing a lot of grinding, so you got to be careful. If you're doing something like copper chrysocolla, you don't want it to let it build up heat, or if it's really hot like it is right now, you don't want to take it and go dip it in cold water and crack it. So you like this one, I'll rinse off to check, but I'm gonna rinse it off in warm water so there's not a big temperature shock.
Brett is asking, are you selling rocks tonight?
I think we'll probably get to some tote later on tonight. All right. It's been one of the other things I've seen like people post up on Facebook or say is like, man, my 80 grit cups were leaving really big scratches. That is normal because this is this is very aggressive, those 60 or 80 grit scratches left in there. But I don't see any flat spots in this or like chips that we need to get out. So we can take this and go to our 220 grit. It does have spots on there to do that with a wrench, but I like to give it enough momentum that I can just spin them off. All right, let me grab the 220 grit. I'd be happy to finish this little nilite ball. We've been talking about making a nilite sphere for quite some time now.
Sherry is
Oh,
asking,
no,
have you
the
ever
cups.
had 80 grit cups glaze over?
No, I never had them like glaze over. You do get, I mean, if you don't run them with too much water, they stay pretty sharp. But I do know people that they'll take and sharpen them. I've never had to do that though. Apparently, I don't have a full set of that size of cup. I was pretty certain I did, unless Tay's been stealing out of the bin here to fill orders. That's entirely possible. Oh no, they're right here. Is that 220 grit or is that 400? Why do I feel like these are the 400 grit cups? Someone got a chart up. Yeah, I need the blue ones next. It's like, why am I putting 400 on there?
Sherry is asking, how do you sharpen them?
I don't ever sharpen the sphere cups, but if I was gonna sharpen them, I would do it the same way we sharpen the saw blades, like hitting it with a bastard file. But I never sharpen the sphere cups. If you run them with just a drip of water and don't flood them, the rock mud helps keep them pretty sharp. The only time that I'd really look at like sharpening the sphere cups is if you did something like the copper chrysocolla and had copper smearing all over the segment. Then I'd use like a sharpening stone to remove that. We also, usually when we're running spheres in our shop, we're never just doing one at a time unless we're doing something like the cut and chat. I'd always do them in batches so that when you change out your cups, you're not doing it as often. All right, get these same process, adjust them all so that it's sitting pretty flat, and that when you pull back, it's lifting the sphere up just a tad bit.
Joseph is asking, could you please show a close-up of those cups?
Like you want to see it running like this, or you just wanted to see how like close up on the segment? Now, would you get my water bottle over there? Thank you.
On the segment,
Let's see. So this is the same kind of segment, but that's the next step. That's the 400 grind. Then we'll go to a series of, thank you, of resin cups like this. We'll take it from the 6080 all the way up to 8000. Yeah, of course. You can also set these to run with a timer when you're doing series like this, because otherwise you stand here and look at it and go, ooh, for too long. So sometimes we'll set this up and like on a sphere like this, maybe I'll run it 2 minutes on the 220 like this. And otherwise I stand here and let it run for 6 minutes because I'm staring at it spin going, it's so cool. So, at least for the ADHD brain, it's a good idea to have a timer going. And you can see the way the mud's moving, you get a nice X pattern in there. You see what I'm talking about with the way it's moving one direction or another. Oh, let's see. Get you guys a little closer. I don't know that the refresh rate will, or the frames per second will allow it to really give you guys a good image of that. Might need a little bit faster view. Let's see. Let's go rinse this off. That one should be pretty darn close to done. Oh, this ball's starting to look really cool. Oh, this is going to be awesome. And if we look at it, it's still got some pretty decent scratches in there from the 60 group. So we'll let that run a little bit longer, get some more of those out. But it doesn't take much. This is also where impatience can, you can help your impatience if you lean on the machine a little bit, add a little extra pressure. Sometimes I'll also just take and add a couple more bungees and really crank up the pressure depending on what I'm doing. But pushing on it like this is what John will teach, because then you can really control the rotation by how much pressure you put on each head.
Kyle is asking, are the cup sphere size specific?
Every sphere cup size has a range of what size sphere it can do, but it's not like a huge range. So, and the smaller the cup, the more limited the range is going to be. But yeah, if you're going to do a bunch of different sizes, you'll need a bunch of different cups. Generally, what I recommend is people start with 1 or 2 size sphere cups and, do somewhere between that 2 and 4 inch range. All right, let me go rinse this one off again. Well, it looks a lot better. I never price spheres on weight generally, unless it's a material that's incredibly expensive. I'll take weight into consideration. Like a Sujilite sphere, I'll take weight into consideration. But generally, I think the easiest formula for most people to start with is about 3 times the size of the cost of the rock. So if you got one chunk of rock that'll cut 1 3-inch ball, let's say you paid $100 for the rock, then I would do about $300 on the sphere, and then you can cab up what's left. Um, that's not always the case, but that's a good starting point. Give you a baseline. Something like a copper chrysocolla sphere, sometimes will be more or less. But also, when you get to a certain price point, you're not multiplying the price. You start cutting $50,000 ball, and maybe you're only making 10% profit on that, but that's still $5,000 to cut a sphere. So it gets a lot easier when you're doing it like that. Or maybe you get like one of those mystery barrels that we offered, and everything was so stupidly cheap in there that you're like, all right, well, it only cost, $10 for this rock, but it could still be a $200 sphere. Because you got a really good deal. And that gives you an opportunity to either make better margin or continue it on and offer a better deal on the sphere. But when people are talking about pricing, you always got to know what it cost you. Way too many people sell stuff that they have no idea what it cost them. Oh, that's way too wet.
Jerry is asking, what cup grade are those?
This is 400 metal bond. So we're going to do 400. The reason I specified it's metal bond is because we're also going to do 400 polish. We do both.
Okay, sorry. Goes
No, you're good. I appreciate you, John. Sorry, I just happened to see that message because I walked around to the other side of the camera. We do both. For the difference between 400 grind and 400 polish is actually a very significant jump. And so we use both steps. And truth be told, 400 polish is actually 320 grit, not 400. But that would be even more confusing for people. Move you guys a little bit closer there. On the high speed machine here too, you can do pretty small sphere. We have cups that go all the way down to 5/8 of an inch, which I think will do a 1 inch sphere. And you can do all the way up to a 6 inch on this machine.
There's a question here. How many sphere can you estimate for a cup grid? I bought a LSSM and the 80 grid has gone through about 7 spheres and seems to have stalled a bit.
That's pretty fast to wear out a cup. Probably, I would guess, that you either need to get your preforms a little bit more dialed in, or you're running them way too long. Those are the two most common things that we see. But it's really going to depend on hardness of material, how good your preform is, and how long you're running it. And of course, not all cups are going to last the same. You know, an 80 grit cup, I would say I used to get probably more like 50, 60 spheres out of a set of 80 grit cups. Um, and on like the 8,000 grit cups though, you could do a couple thousand spheres before you wear them out. So you're gonna have certain grits are gonna wear out a lot faster.
Mark is asking, will you ever show making a big 12-inch plus sphere?
Well, we will eventually.
And Kent is asking, any time difference between 2-inch or 6-inch?
Not a massive amount of time. When you're doing it on the high speed machine, and it's also going to depend on what the stone and the material. But if you're comparing apples to apples, maybe on a 2 inch, maybe you're running 2 to 4 minutes per step, and on a 6 inch, maybe you're running 6 to 8 minutes per step on a high speed. If all things are going well, maybe a little bit longer than that. So you're still cranking one out pretty fast. But it also depends on if you're doing something like that's got vugs in it or a really hard material. How good of a job you did on your 220 and 400 before you move to polish. That's one area I see a lot of people really make a mistake is that they don't run the 220 and 400 grit metal bond long enough. And so they'll get to the 400 polish, or maybe they don't even realize they'll get all the way to 800 polish and go, gosh, I can't get these scratches out. It's taken forever. And sometimes you just got to go back and start again. This is way too wet. What you want to see is mud start to building up around the edge of the cup. When one of these times when John's back, we're gonna set up the hydraulic machine and do like a 24-inch sphere. That'll be fun. All right, let's check that and see how it's doing. Rinse it off.
Stewart is asking, can you talk about the tension on bungees?
John will always just tell you to just run two bungees around there, and that's pretty much the correct amount of tension for anything you're about doing. I tend to run three because I like a little bit more pressure on there. But two bungees wrapped all the way around is about perfect for 99% of things. And you'll feel it if you don't have enough tension, the cups might bounce a little bit, or if you have too much tension, you might get squealing. But they're stretchy enough that it makes it pretty easy. See, maybe we didn't spend quite long enough on our 220. Got some pretty decent scratches in there. And the further along you get, the more evident flaws will be because the rest of the sphere will look great and you'll see the flaws in there. On that one, like with scratch like that, I would just go back. You'll spend way too long grinding out on this set of cups. It'll be faster to change them out and go back. So we'll go back to the 220 and get rid of those scratches. You can even see now how good that centered wheel was cutting because it was cutting so fast. Hey Cody, it sounds like you got a rock touching a flange or slipper or something. Or something's not sharp. Well, that's not a good sound. Maybe one of the 24s. Oh yeah, definitely that one. That would help if I put the tension back on there. Let's see, which other one did I undo? That's the other problem with having too many bunches on there. It's like, wait, which one did I move? No, almost. No, could be that one. That still doesn't sound good. One of the other saws isn't sounding good either. I don't know which one that is, but I don't like that sound. Yeah, it sounds like it's rubbing up against the flange or it slipped. So you want to watch that now, make sure it doesn't stop rotating in the next. Oh, that's a cool piece. Let's see. Yeah, you're hitting the flange right there. That's why it was making that horrible noise. You look down there. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, when you're cutting, look across this line at the flange, make sure it's not hanging below.
I've been doing it, but I see now.
Yeah. That's a mistake we all make. I doubt there's anybody that's ever used a rock soft for more than a day that hasn't run at least one rock into the flange. It was funny. Cody said earlier, maybe it was yesterday, he was like, after cutting rock all day, I kind of get what Jordan means about that's an easy one to clamp. All right. You want to watch that, make sure it stays moving, doesn't if it starts moving in one direction, shut the machine off because otherwise it'll burr into the stone. I'm gonna go check on our King Cobra. All right. We're getting to a cube. Ooh, kicking the camera over. Getting to a cube. This face right here is pretty flat already. So I'm gonna take and cut this side off right there. Well, I better check it with the tape measure first. We're getting real close to what our max size can be. The question is, where did I leave the tape measure? Oh, it's right here. Right where I'd never see it on the rack, right next to where I was working. In one of those invisible spots. Yeah, we're a little bit shorter that direction. So that's going to be some extra grinding. But let's check it this way. Yeah, we don't have much room to take a cut off there. So we're gonna have to just skim both sides. I cheated on which part? I missed it. You have to read that to me, Ahmed.
Henry was asking, the replacement drum for the WBS works well. I think the cost was a loose handle for changing belts.
Hmm. Okay. That's possible. What did Sherry say? I missed it.
Jerry said, you kind of cheat on the cubing like I do, Zeke.
Oh. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of doing the cubing, so if I can come up with a little bit easier way to do it, I definitely will.
Jerry said, you said one side was already pretty flat.
Oh, yeah. I will still cut it, but yeah, it's pretty flat. So it made it an easier one to clamp.
Ed's asking, why does the oil coming out of the EC seem to be a low flow?
That's pretty good flow right there. I think that's about normal. Might need to add a little bit more to the tank because it's not totally covering the port, but that's not bad. All right, let me wash my hands.
7%. Did my headset cut out?
We
Oh, it's
still
still
hear you.
working, but we just can't see the
Okay,
camera
good.
and your angle.
Okay, yeah, that camera just died. Sorry, folks. But I'm looking at 2 full racks of Turkish thick agate that I've been cutting all day today. Here we go. That's been my main project in the morning. Let's see if I could get a good piece here. Yeah. How fantastic is that? And then, do we have any other saws stopping here? No. Do we have any Intarsia people on here tonight? This has been my absolute newest obsession. In love with Intarsia. I think this is a super fun project that Tay's working on. What other kind of trouble can I get into when I have the camera and a mic? Oh my goodness. Let's see.
What's your favorite there, Cody?
My favorite?
Yeah, in the warehouse.
Well, you're my favorite so far. But if we're talking about stones, I really like the leopard. The leopard's super cool. But maybe I'm just kind of favoriting it because I've been cutting a bunch of it today. But that Turkish stick agate is really an epic material that I like a lot. So maybe I'm gonna say that just because I've been cutting it so much today, but I feel biased saying that, if you know what I mean. Um, I feel like a kid in a candy shop, if I'm gonna be honest with you, trying to pick a favorite. I just want to try them all. Let's see. But then of course the Milliflori. I mean, the Milliflori is just it's a man-made material, but it's so epic, and you have so much different colors and designs coming from it. It's like uh, you have every option in it when it comes to colors, so that's always super fun. The Mookite, the Mookite is also always a favorite. Been digging on that dead camel jasper. Oh, and then actually on the side, I've been lotting up a bunch of Alamejo agates, and I've been having a hard time not keeping on track basically because I'll find one and I just want to go take it over to the little 10-inch trim saw and cut it open and make and polish it so bad. But I
No,
think that's
Cody,
kind of the
no. There's 5 stainless steel slab saws over there.
But I like my 10-inch trim saw. It makes me feel comfortable. I like going where I'm warm.
That's so funny. Yeah, I had no problem making that transition.
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet not. Yeah. I bet I won't either. I mean, when you're like, I have every saw you could ever imagine, every lapidary tool you could ever fathom. It's just, yeah, I'm like every time I'm not thinking at the job what I'm doing, I'm like thinking of like, oh, I could do this now. Oh, I could do that now. Oh, I can't wait to do this.
That's hilarious. All right, where's the camera?
It's over. Yeah.
You guys have fun looking at the rock. All right, let's see how we're doing on this piece here. I feels cool. What? Oh, can y'all unmute Mel's camera? I think she's under Jordan's account. Oh, apparently it's under Mel's. All right. Now there's balance in the universe. I had to flip that back around.
How about now, Mel? You can hear me?
We can hear you, Cody.
Thank you. We're trying to hear Mel now. We're playing musical headset. I don't know if she's maybe muted on one of the other. Oh,
I think you had this problem earlier too, didn't you? Team, will you unmute? Or if you did, see maybe if you can help Mel out. I'm not sure what's wrong with her headset or with her account. I don't know if you already unmuted it or if it just hasn't been unmuted yet.
Which account she's logged in on Zeke?
I think she's linked under her name. Yeah, Mel Vega. What?
Okay,
Oh,
got
maybe
it.
it's Melanie Vega.
Yep, Melanie K. Vega.
Yeah, you're still muted. Poor Ahmed is like, I can't find Mel. How do you spell that? What's the K stand for?
kick butt.
Oh, I can see that.
It's Kate.
All right, let me rinse this off and check it. I'm really excited to have this little Neolite ball finished.
It's just so annoying. I don't know why it's not. I give up. All right, what about now?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Cody and I just switched again. I couldn't figure it out. I'll have to play with it later.
Still some pretty decent scratches in there. The other thing where sometimes it'll feel like a sphere is taking it's taking forever is you have to grind the entire surface of that ball, which is a massive surface area, to get all the scratches and low spots out. I love the lightning effect from that band right there. That's really cool. And you can see it's taken, well, it looks like a hematite band because it looks a little bit more metallic in there. But I love the lightning effect that it's given it. I definitely could just get lost there into this. That's the problem. That's the thing I hate about most about doing this for cutting chats is that I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be talking. I just get so lost in looking at the spare machine because it's so much fun to sit here and just watch it turn. All right, check that. We can also, don't let me forget, someone asked about sharpening a bit, and I said we could show that, but I forgot. So don't let me forget before we move on tonight.
Gary was asking, at what point do you stop and go to smaller cups?
As soon as the cups start touching. It looks pretty consistent. I'll try it again. You still have to take a good bit off that sphere before these cups started touching. But you can go down as small as till the cups start bouncing against each other, and then you gotta do a smaller size, which would not be the first time that's happened where cut a sphere and had to use a smaller set of cups because we ground so much off of it, or there was a defect or chipped. All right. And then of course you just adjust all the heads. I like to have the machine set up closer to the CAD machine because what I used to do is I'd sit and while this was running, I'd sit and grind in more preforms. Or you can have it next to the core drill and you can be plunking out more cores while this runs. It is so quiet tonight. How was your day now? How was packing machines?
It was good. I did a lot of booking of machines today.
It has been pretty crazy how much stuff we're sending out.
It's getting up there.
I think the highlight of the day was that we got 3 of the electric pallet jacks running, which doesn't seem
Yeah.
like a big deal, but that was a big like, oh, I'm so happy now.
No, now we have one exactly where we need one to be at all times. And I don't have to go hunt it down.
Yeah, they're never where they're needed. It's nice that we have one in each area. All right, let me rinse this off and see how we're doing.
Zeke, there's a question. What do you do with a sphere that has a VOG? I heard you can fill it with wax, maybe?
I've never filled any of them with wax. Some people do that. I find it to just be messy. Um, we do one with a big vug in it, we just pick a cup that's as big as absolutely possible. So like you want those cups as close to touching as you can get. And if it's one of the bigger cups where it's got more segments on it, sometimes we'll solder extra segments on so that they look like the smaller cups do, where like the segments are almost touching, and that helps prevent it from falling into the vug.
And what is the container the dirty water is dripping into?
That is a 5-gallon bucket that I cut the top off of. Although I think one of like the smaller, like the 3-gallon buckets work better. The technical. All right, this is looking a lot better. We'll switch this over to the 400 polish. And it's just most of the way done. Once it comes off good on 400 polish, then 90% of the work's done.
Ed is asking, would it be a good idea to have John add a timer to the HSSM that would turn it off after the number of minutes you indicated?
That's probably one of those features that John would be like, that's more complex than um he would add to the machine. Because you don't want to just walk away from the machine. I mean, you're constantly adjusting it to make sure it's turning in a nice rotation. What I do is I have like a little this is just an Amazon timer where you can rotate it and change the time, or like a little kitchen timer that's magnetic, and I just stick it to one of the metal parts of the machine, one of the steel parts of the machine. Because you don't want to set it up and just let it run. You want to keep an eye on it, otherwise you're gonna end up with a sphere that gets stuck and or rotates in one direction and the cups will start burrowing into it. And I think a timer would just make it so that more people had that problem. All right. I like to, on the polishing cups, always clean them off. So I'll take a wet paper towel and wipe that edge. It's way too much water. Oh, that
Michael,
is such great. Sorry, I'm go ahead.
Michael is asking, is that a Sherman safety approved process to wipe the edge of the cup?
I don't know that Sherman would approve of that process. John has no problem with that process. Sherman might have a different opinion on it. You could also just wipe them off before you put them on the machine, but
What grit are we on? I mean, what cup are we on
this is
right now?
this is 400 polish. How's your night going, Ahmed?
All good, Zeke. Always happy to work with you and the team.
I love you guys. The team's so awesome. I don't think I've ever seen any of our Philippine team members in a bad mood. I think their version of a bad mood would not be smiling too hard, you know. You cut something good there, Cody? You want to show them? That is a really cool piece of Turkish steak.
Steven is asking, how long does this part take?
This is the longest step other than your initial grind. If you're running your other steps, I'll just give you an example. So if you're, I usually run this about twice as long. So if you run 220 and 400 for 2 minutes, then you'd run this one for 4. But usually about double the time of the other steps. And then once you get past 400 polish, then each step, you know, you can go a little bit faster on. But after it gets to this point, if it looks good, the only thing that's going to cause you a problem is having contamination of, you know, like a little rock chip or grit or something on the cup or the sphere. So that's why I always wipe them down and wash them. So once you get past the 400 polish, you're pretty much done. You're very close. Honestly, with our cups, some spheres, I'll stop at 1200 grit because it looks so good. At some point, it's just like, man, it doesn't matter if I keep taking it up; it's not going to get any better.
Bill is asking, what's the RPM?
That is a really good question. I want to say about 300 RPM. To put that in perspective, the low speed machine is 105 RPM.
Also, Zeke, I just wanted to mention that we have one last barrel left for our Mr. Mix Rock barrel. They can get for 1340. That's free.
They can get it for how much?
For 1340. So that includes the shipping fee for a 500-pound barrel of rock. So one last barrel left, guys.
Good grief. I didn't know we had more barrels. Those Mr. Barrels have been pretty epic. A lot of people posting a lot of really cool stuff.
Richard is saying, then do the cerium.
Depends on the sphere if I run with cerium or not. On a sphere like this, it'd probably be good enough that we don't need cerium. Sometimes we'll do cerium, but it just depends on how good the sphere looks. I like our cups because often, you know, you just don't need an extra polish for a lot of materials. It just looks so good that there's no point in going up any higher. Once it gets to that glass-like finish, I'll usually stop. Let's see. Let me go rinse it and we'll check these cups. See how we're doing. This is such a cool little ball.
Brandon Christensen has a question. What would cause the ceramic bearings to wear out so fast on the RL30? Less than 2 weeks, I changed out the first set and replaced the grease with 30 weight oil, but still wearing out super fast. Only running machine about 12 hours a day.
That's a great question and one for John. Because that I can't imagine what would wear them out that fast. You want to send that to John team?
Got it, Zeke.
Thank you. Run that a little bit longer. We still had one spot. That wasn't quite as good. No, while that runs, I'll grab our next set of cups. Next, we'll go up to 800 grit. It's still a little on the wet side because you should have a little bit of mud building up on the edges. All right, let's change that out. There you go, rinse that off. Thank you. Mel is enjoying the sphere. It is shiny. I like the chatoyance in it. Oh, and Cody opened up the 16 again for us because that cut is ready to be changed. Just watching Mel turn the sphere back and forth looking at the chatoyance. Ooh, ah. Oh yeah, that looks pretty darn good. Giving it a thorough inspection. After this grit, it should have a decent shine on it. But it'll get better and better as we get up there. On these cups is usually where people add too much pressure, and if you start getting black off the cups, is because you got too much pressure. And even though this is a finer grit, you can still get where the machine digs holes in your sphere if you let it rotate in one direction for too long.
Ed is asking what makes the black.
It's the aggressive amount of segment coming off. And so you get like almost like a layer of segment where it's like burned to the cup or to the sphere. And then you just got to take it back a step or let the loosen the pressure and let the cups work it off. Or if it gets a little too dry, that's right on the edge. That's perfect right there where you see a little bit of mud building up around the edge of the cup. That's exactly what you want to see. You see I was getting a little layer of mud. You don't want it to be too clean on the when it's grinding. That's probably plenty long enough. Hey, you want to give it a rinse and see how we're doing. But I'm pretty confident I can go ahead and change these cups out. And especially that's one of the reasons that I always wash the cups off. You get it dropping it in the dirty water. Let's see. So you can see even just after 800 grit, it's starting to look decent. The sad part is I used to do a lot of shows and there's a lot of sphere cutters that'd be like, look at the polish I got, and it'd be about there. And I'd be like, oh, it can get so much better. I used to buy lots of spheres from other people that I was like, oh, a little bit of work and that'll be phenomenal. It's one of the reasons I'm so grateful to have learned from John, because I don't know anybody that's a better sphere cutter than John.
Heather was asking, do you tell people or do you just quietly move on, Zeke?
What was that?
Do you tell people or do you just quietly move on?
Do I tell people that their polish is terrible? Was
Yeah,
that the question? Oh, absolutely not. No, because if someone brings it, ooh, sorry, kick the camera. If someone asks me what they can do to do better, or if I think it's a good polish, or if I think it could use improvement, I will happily tell them how to get there. If it is not asked, I would never just walk up to somebody's booth and be like, "Gosh, you could be getting a much better polish," because they're not, odds are that they probably don't know me, and they're just gonna go, "What a prick," um, and not learn anything, and it'll be a bad experience on both sides. So, like, I would never just go up to somebody's booth and tell them, but if they asked, I'd be happy to advise them on how they could get better. And I'm happy to get a good deal on a sphere that's not well done so that I can go finish it. But in my experience, I've seen a lot of people try to do that where they'll try to correct somebody, like maybe they mislabel or they could be getting it a better polish or they're doing something wrong show, and it almost never goes well. Cody's over there laughing. Uh, I've actually seen, like, in mineral booths, you'll see like minerals where people be debating about what it is, and they'll be like, "Your tag's wrong," and I've seen people get thrown out for trying to correct people. And as a general rule, I don't think a lot of people's approach is very good either. Oh gosh, this is terrible is never going to get a good response.
People don't want unsolicited advice.
They really don't. Well, especially if they don't know you. You know, like if you knew John and you were at a show selling spheres and he walked up and started giving you advice, that would be one thing because you'd be like, wow, that was great. I love that John gave me advice. If you have no idea who I am and I walk up and go, wow, if you ran these a little longer in your 220 grit, they'd look so much better. You're probably gonna be like, what does this prick know? Yeah, Cody's over there nodding his head like, yeah. It is very tricky to give people advice that don't want it. Actually, and one of the other things you can do, if you notice that, is start a conversation with people. If you're like, man, I could really help this person, start a conversation with them. I've met people that they didn't know me when I walked up, and an hour later, I was giving them advice. After we'd gotten to know each other. But I guess some of that experience also comes from watching my dad as a kid correct people and go, "Oh yeah, that didn't go well."
Ed was asking, what is the next size smaller for the cups you are using right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's 1 3/4. Oh no, that would be the next size up. Next size down. Maybe a 1 3/8. Do we have 1.5 inch cups? I'm gonna guess that it's either 1 3/8 or 1.5. That's looking pretty good. That's 1200 grit. I We'll still go up a little bit higher. I guess the flip side to that comment on giving advice is never be in a place where you can't learn from anybody. As people that are brand new can still have a good idea. So you got to always be open to learning. I always like when people share ideas on something because it may not work. It's possible. There's a lot of ideas that I've given to John that John was like, "That will never work, dude." But he still listened. Um, there's also been times where it's like, "Oh, well, that seems obvious now. Why don't we do that?" One of the things that I'm always looking for, especially with new people, is the way that I teach. I learn from people that have no knowledge of what I'm doing when I'm teaching, because if they have no knowledge of what I'm doing and they learn that's the best experience, because then I'm like, oh, good. That means I taught it well, where they could understand and they walked away with good knowledge. So like if I'm teaching a group of people, usually the opinion I want the most is the person that knows the least, because they probably learned the most.
Lizelle said no 1.5.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember.
Gregory is saying, never listen to the one that tells you to use diesel as a cutting fluid.
Yes. Well, and that's the other thing too you can do is if you're looking for advice, look to see it's stuff that you know about. Like if you know diesel fuel is a bad idea and they start spewing off advice, I would take that advice with a big old grain of salt, because I'm like, I don't know that you know. One of the ways I'll judge a sphere cutter's knowledge, um, and this is a really common thing to look at, even if they're getting a decent polish. If you look at a material with vugs in it, does the polish go all the way up to the edge of the vug, or is it frosted around the vug? Because that's a subtle thing that if it makes the sphere look so much better if the polish goes all the way up to the edge of the vug. And a lot of sphere cutters out there miss the mark on that one when they got these like little frosted, scratched up edges right around the vug. And it's a really easy fix. All you got to do is run your 220 and 400 grit metal bond cups longer. So if it's got a vug in it, I'll run them twice as long on those steps. But if you're new, you'll just keep going back and forth, going, gosh, I can't figure out why I'm not getting those scratches out. You'll end up finishing the sphere, or some sphere cutters will get so frustrated that they'll take it over and they'll finish the edges of the vugs on the cab machine, which looks even worse. Well, I mean, I guess some people wouldn't think that looks worse, but I don't like that one. What was that, Mel? A vug where it's got like a hole in it. I guess, yeah, we should probably explain what a vug is. Mel's looking at me and it's like, what the heck are you talking about? Vug? Like a bug?
Mel is still learning.
See, that's great.
From Sherry, can you repeat the what to do?
So this is a VUG where you got like this pocket inside the sphere or a hole or something. And you want your polish to go right up to the edge. It gives it a very sharp look. If the polish doesn't go all the way up to the edge, you didn't run it long enough on 220 and 400 metal bond cups. So if you got a sphere like that one I was just showing, I would run it twice as long on those two steps. You need to get adjusted here. As it gets slippery and slipperier, becomes harder to get to move in the right motion. No. And there's the 8,000 pictures right there. This is 4,000 grit that we're running right now. And honestly, for a lot of hard materials like agates and jasper, this is usually where I stop. Usually like so good after this step that it really doesn't make that much difference to go up another grit, if any at all. Other spheres, it's like, all right, take it up to 50,000 grit to get a decent polish. Ooh, that's toasty. I feel it nice and warm. Tastes like, smells like that's not nice and warm. That's like burned my skin. What?
It's shinier.
It is amazing the difference in just a one grit step. All right. We'll run it on our last step here. Do our 8,000. The other thing I really like about our diamond cups is they're really good about not undercutting. Something like that's where we got multiple hardnesses. Undercutting is where you get a stone that has more than one hardness in it, and the harder part will stick up higher because it's not grinding down as fast as the soft spots.
Question from Michael. Why do trim saw cause grazing, but the diamond cups on the sphere machine don't?
Because it's a lot more surface area to evenly distribute the heat. And depending on the material, I wouldn't get it that hot. But if you think about like the blade going through the rock, it's a very, very small pressure point that is putting a lot of heat into. Versus a sphere like this, it's probably not getting to the same level of heat, even though it's warm for us to hold it on that right on that edge of the blade. And because there's so much more pressure and more heat in such a small area, that's why you get a problem there. But you can have a problem with heat on the sphere machine if you let it get too hot on a sphere that can't handle the heat. This one can handle a little bit of heat, it's fine. If I was doing a Mozambique agate, I wouldn't let it get that hot though. Or a Queensland. Or a piece of the copper. Capper, 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 capper. I love that sound.
Can you sphere anything?
Just
Or
about.
like, as long as it's big enough?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if we use the shaping machine, we can make beads all the way down to like 6 millimeter. Perfect little balls.
Question from James. Have you ever sphered malachite?
Yep. Malachite's a really fun one to do. That's one that it's a little bit softer, so you got to be careful as you're going through not to overgrind. Actually, on the shelf over there, I got a malachite stalactite sphere that is in the works. So like a big single eye of malachite. Pretty cool.
Michael Crawford is asking, is there going to be bins put or what is that? Put up for sale tonight or tote?
We could do some tote if you guys want. I was thinking we could do some King Cobra or Neolite. Did we make any tote racks? Speaking of that.
We
Hey
have
Mel, you want
one
to throw a
for,
rack together for tote?
we have two for King Cobra. James is asking, where is your malachite from?
Most of the malachite we have is going to be from Congo. All right, let me go wipe off this sphere.
Sandy is asking, whatever happened to the piece that that you were cutting in the saw?
The cube. We just need to go check on it. I think we almost have our 8 cuts done.
And Brian is asking, where is the fluorite from?
I think most of the fluorite we have is from China. Oh, that's such a pretty sphere. Oh, I'm so happy with how that turned out. It
Mark
is
is
really
asking
cool.
for the price, if you're going to price it.
Oh, yeah, price it. I hate having to price them. Um, Especially on the fly where I don't get a chance to ooh and ah at it for a minute first. On this sphere, that's probably like 1.6 inch. I'd probably put like 125 on it if I was cutting these. Which, you can still get a few of these out of a piece, and that's gonna be really good. But I am happy with how that turned out. All right. Let's go look at our piece in the saw. Will you turn off that valve right there? Just pull it towards you so it's straight up. We're so close to a cube. We probably could get away with actually not cutting that face off.
Gregory is asking what size is that square?
This should make about I think a 2¼ inch. Let's see. Maybe it's not gonna be quite that big. Oh, it's about 2¼ inch. So it's probably be closer to a 2 inch ball when it's done. Yeah, with how close that is, I probably opt not to cut that face flat, even though I really hate not doing that. But it's very, very close.
Gregory is saying for the shaping machine.
This one's a little too big for the shaping machine because the shaping machine maxes out a 2 inch. So it's a little bit bigger than I would put in there. But you could cut a cube like this and put it in the shape machine. This one is where let's actually grab a jig and stick it in here and take some of the corner cuts off. So you guys can see that. I think the jigs will work in a 16. The question is where is my jig? Tay was rearranging all the little places that stick stuff like that.
Michael was saying you're gonna use WBS to make it flat.
No, it's flat enough. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's flat enough.
And Bill is saying, why does it not cut at 90?
Because when you clamp it in the saw, if you don't keep it perfectly flat, the movable vice jaw lifts it up a little bit. Let's see. I'm looking for something round that's close to that size. I was hoping we had, I get in trouble for that, but maybe a sphere cup. That might be the right size. Or pretty darn close to it. Oh, it's a little too big. The idea is that you want to be able to take something that's about the size of your sphere. So that when you, oh, let's see. Oh, just a hair too big. Just need a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna very poorly eyeball this for you guys. The idea is that you draw something round like that on there, lid, or I think they make templates. You just keep like a bottle cap or something of the right size jar so that you know how much to cut off, and you mark each side so that you know where your cut is supposed to be. Although once you get your first cut lined up, you just don't move the jig and you just rotate it around for all your cuts. Let's see. Let's stick our jig in here. I think it'll work on the 16. Oh yeah, that'll work. We'll use the C clamp on the back. to hold it in place. Getting that twisted here. All right. And then you take and stick your, well, you don't put your C-clamp in the way for starts. But you take and stick that in there so that it holds it in place for you. This jig might be slightly too close to the same size as the preform. Might need the next size smaller jig. These come in 3 sizes that cover most spheres. And yes, I did cut this too small for this jig because if you look, the rock should stick out further than the jig right here. You'd want it realistically, you'd want it, more like there so that the vise can squeeze the rock. So we'll have to grab a smaller jig to finish cutting this one. But you guys get the idea where you cut your cube out and then you take it and stick it in there and you would just clamp that down to hold it like that. You'd make a cut, take it out, turn it, make a cut, take it out, turn it, and then you'd rotate it and do it the other direction. And so you wind up with 26 total cuts by the time you complete it to get it to that shape I showed you guys earlier. I'll show you for anybody that joined late, I'll show you guys the 2 different preforms.
Kevin is asking, would a horizontal clamp work without a jig?
I don't think you could do at least not well without a jig. It'd be very, very difficult to line it up each cut without one. So this right here is one we did. This is 26 cuts. And I saw, and actually Kathy was very kind and made the cube for us, so I didn't have to cut the cube, which I was very excited about. But that's a one where that's your 26 cuts. And then this is one we did where you're 5 cuts with a core drill. So you can see the difference in what you end up with. But if we took that cube and keep cutting it in the saw with the jig, this is what you end up with. And yes, we do sell the jigs. Danny, did you get prices on the jigs?
What jig?
The sphere jig. There's a set of 3, and then there's the individuals 30, 50, and I think 100 millimeter. Awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all. As always, fun to hang out, cut rocks. I know Cody's just having the time of his life over there. And we'll see y'all tomorrow night. We're gonna have a fun tote night. Oh, I got so many good things planned for tomorrow night. Thanks, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow.